Hello, I'm Missy, and I'm here to talk about why I don't stand with Israel. Um, you've probably heard all your life that we have to stand with Israel um, in order to fulfill Bible prophecy and so on. I'm going to be discussing history, historical facts, also scriptures, in order to explain why it is I don't have this belief of standing with Israel. Do I believe that people are going to hell because they believe in standing with Israel? No. I'm just explaining why I have a different view on this doctrine and this belief system. And, if you walk away from this video still feeling like you have to stand with Israel, that's your business. I'm not going to hold it against anybody. The biggest problem that I have with standing with Israel is it's about building a literal physical place. And I don't believe the Bible teaches that. Jesus actually even said, my kingdom is not of this world. And yet we have all these Christians that want to force religion down everybody else's throat through public schools and the government and so on in order to create and enforce a Christian nation when Jesus said his kingdom is not of this world. That's not expected of us. That's not something that he ever taught. So as far as the United States, which is consists mostly of Christians, sending billions of dollars to Israel since the late 40s, early 50s, it just doesn't make sense. And a lot of people don't realize this, but if a Jew becomes a Christian and wants to have Israeli citizenship, they cannot unless they profess to being a Jew. And so we have a religious state of Israel who won't let a person that was a Jew who became a Christian into their country, asking us for billions of dollars. And I kind of find that suspect. So anyway, thank you. I'm going to get on with the rest of the video. Be right back. So now it's time to lock down some definitions. We've been talking about Zionism. It's basically premillennialism's ugly cousin, along with things like the number 666, the mark of the beast, the rapture, Armageddon, the Antichrist, and so on. These are things that I don't subscribe to as a Christian. Whether or not you want to is your business. But in an effort to help provide some information, I'm going to start locking down some definitions. What is Zionism? Okay, it's a belief that the Jewish people should have a state, a homeland, where they can live and govern themselves. It's rooted in a historical connection to the land of Israel, Palestine, and a desire for self-determination, especially in the face of persecution and anti-Semitism. Essentially, it's a movement advocating for a Jewish national home, a physical Jewish national home. All right, so that's Zionism in a nutshell. It's basically a modern movement. Zionism draws from the ancient Jewish tradition of connection to the land of Israel, often referred to as Eretz Israel. It is a modern movement. In other words, this is not biblical. It's not in the Bible. While the idea of a Jewish homeland existed for centuries, modern Zionism emerged in the late 19th century, particularly in response to rising anti-Semitism and the Dreyfus Affair. You can look up the Dreyfus Affair. Okay, the core goal of Zionism is to establish and support a Jewish state in the land of Israel. a physical Jewish state, in other words. There are different varieties of Zionism, okay? Mostly what we talk about is Christian Zionism. Zionism played a crucial role in the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. So some of you have been hearing that the Palestinians just all of a sudden, for no reason whatsoever, on October the 7th, 2023, attacked Israel. That's not the case. Well, they did, but it was out of retaliation for the way Israel's been treating them for years on end. So this conflict actually started May the 14th of 1948. And it's been an off and on thing ever since between the Palestinians and people living in Israel, the physical state of Israel, or country of Israel. So now we kind of have a more clear idea of what Zionism is. We're going to now discuss the origins of Zionism. And you'll find this hard to believe, the father or founder of modern Zionism is none other than Theodor Herzl, and he was an atheist. He was not religious and did not subscribe to traditional Jewish beliefs. His Zionism was driven by a political desire for a Jewish state as a solution to anti-Semitism rather than religious motivations. Okay, so we have all this Zionism, stand with Israel and whatnot, and it's rooted in a guy that was an atheist, okay? Now, I want to clear something up. I am not bashing anyone of the Jewish faith. I'm not. I'm talking about how Zionism and Christianity, what they mean, how they relate to each other. So I'm not bashing Jewish people. I want to make that very clear. So this is a secular nationalism, basically founded by an atheist that wanted an easier life, wanted to make it to where people wouldn't be persecuted. Semites would not be persecuted. So Herzl's Zionism was a secular nationalist movement focused on creating a Jewish state to address the issue of anti-Semitism. He had minimal attachment to Judaism, mainly relying on childhood memories of a synagogue. Herzl believed that a Jewish state was the solution to the problem of anti-Semitism, not religious conversion or adherence to religious practices. Okay? And what makes it all worse is it's still not biblical, folks. I know you've heard probably in the churches the Bible being misinterpreted and misapplied to make it look like this is biblical, but it's not. So one of the tenets of this Zionistic vision, okay, for a Jewish state, building a tabernacle, and so on, we can deal with simply by reading Hebrews 9. And this is the interlinear. As you can see, you have the Greek, okay, the pronunciation of the Greek, and then underneath you have the word-for-word translation in English, okay? So, we have Hebrews 9. Had indeed therefore also first regulations of worship, and a sanctuary earthly. A tabernacle 4 was prepared, the first room, in which were both the lampstand and the table, and of the presentation, the bread, which is called the holy place. Behind now, the second veil, was a tabernacle, being called the Holy of Holies, the golden, having altar of incense, and the ark of the covenant, having been covered around in every part with gold, in which was the jar, golden, having the manna, and the staff of Aaron, having budded, and the tablets of the covenant. Above them in it were the cherubim of glory, overshadowing the mercy seat, concerning which not it is now the time to speak in detail. These things now thus have been prepared into indeed the first tabernacle at all times. Everything enter the priests, the sacred services accomplishing, enters into, however, the second, once in the year, only the high priest, not without blood, which he offers for himself and of the people sins of ignorance. By this was signifying the Spirit holy, that not yet had been made manifest, thee into the holy places way still, the first tabernacle having a standing which is a symbol for the time present, in which gifts both and sacrifices are offered, not being able in regard conscious to make perfect the one worshipping, consisting only in foods and drinks and various washings, ordinances of the flesh, until the time of reformation being imposed. Christ, however, having appeared as high priest of the having come good things by the greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made by hands. That is not of this creation, nor by blood of goats and calves, through, however, the own blood, he entered once for all into the holy places, eternal redemption, having obtained, if for the blood of goats and of bulls and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling, having been defiled, sanctify them for the of the flesh purification. How much more the blood of Christ, who through the Spirit eternal himself offered unblemished to God, will purify the conscience of us from dead works in order to serve God the living. So what this is saying is the sacrifice of Jesus has wiped out the need for another physical earthly temple. I don't know how else you could possibly interpret that. Moving on. Go to the Gospel of John. Okay, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. He was in the beginning with God. All things through him came into being, and without him came into being not even one thing that has come into being. In him life was, and the life was the light of men. And the light in the darkness shines, and the darkness it not overcame. There came a man, having been sent from God. The name to him was John. He came as a witness, that he might testify concerning the light, that all might believe through him. Not was he the light, but that he might witness concerning the light. Was the light true, who enlightens every man coming into the world? In the world he was, and the world through him came into being. And the world him not knew. To the own he came, and the own him not received. As many as however received him, he gave them authority, children of God, to be those believing in the name of him. To move on, because there's a very important word coming up. Okay. And the word flesh became and dwelt among us, and we beheld the glory of him, a glory as of an only begotten from the Father. I'm going to go back to this word, dwelt. It's pronounced eskenosin. I'm sorry. All right, that's the Greek spelling, that's the pronunciation. The word dwelt. Interesting thing about the word dwelt. The word dwelt is okay as far as a translation, but what the Greek word eskenosin really means, or really translates to, and please forgive me if my Greek is a bit off. It's been over 20 years since I studied New Testament Greek. Okay, the Greek word eskenosin or eskenosin translates to tabernacled. Yeah, that's right, tabernacled. He tabernacled or dwells among us. Referring to the incarnation of Jesus, it literally means he pitched his tent or made his home among humanity, suggesting the idea of God residing among people. Okay, so he tabernacled among us. So, in other words, to suggest that a new temple has to be built is to deny what Jesus was saying about himself. He is the temple. That's right. Jesus is the temple. And so it borders on blasphemy. It might even be blasphemous to suggest that another temple has to be built after Jesus calls himself the temple. With this, in John 2:19, Jesus states, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." This statement, while seemingly about the physical temple in Jerusalem, is understood to refer to Jesus' body, which he will raise in 3 days through the resurrection. So it would be really hard to argue that Jesus is not calling himself the temple, because he is. In John 2:19 and John 2:21, the temple of his body is the temple. Now, am I saying that, Jews have no right to build a temple? Sure, if they want to build a temple, that's fine. But for Christians to feel like they're obligated to send millions of dollars to Israel so that they can build a temple is flawed thinking. And it comes from bad theology. There is no need for any of us as Christians to send money to Israel for the building of a temple, because Jesus has declared himself the temple for Christians. In other words, Jesus replaces the temple for Christians in the New Testament. There's no other way to say it. Just to recap, John 1:14 and 2:22, if you would like to go to those scriptures and study on your own. Okay, let's look at the crucifixion of Jesus. The scripture passage describing a soldier piercing Jesus' side is found in John 19:34. This event described in context of the crucifixion, where Jesus was already dead and did not need to have his legs broken. A soldier, often referred to as, I'm not going to attempt that word, is said to have pierced Jesus' side with a spear, and immediately blood and water flowed out. This act fulfilled the scripture, "Not one of his bones will be broken, and they will look on the one they have pierced," according to John 19:36-37. What is significant about this is, at this time, the Jews were sacrificing lambs, animals. They were being slaughtered, and the ceremonial thing to do was to wash away the blood with water. So water was mixed with blood. Water and blood gushed out of the temple, just as water and blood gushed out of the side of Jesus. This declares Jesus is the temple, the new temple. And, all I can say is to deny that is to deny he's the Messiah. And there is a scripture that says the one who denies Jesus is Messiah is the Antichrist. So this is, a huge reason why I can't go along with Zionism. I can't go along with premillennialism, dispensationalism, etc. I can't go along with it because the work of the tabernacle, the ceremonies of the tabernacle were all fulfilled at Jesus' crucifixion. And so Christians don't need to involve themselves. There's no scripture that tells them that they have to involve themselves in sending millions of dollars to a fund to help build a tabernacle in Israel. Like I said, if they want to build a temple, fine. I got nothing against that. That's their beliefs, and I'm not going to bash Jewish beliefs. I have no desire to do that. So moving on. I'm going to talk for a moment. Just going to talk for a moment. I'm going to be showing you a video that shows an Israeli police officer, or officers, I'm sorry, there's several, beating on anti-Zionist Orthodox Jews for doing nothing more than walking down the street. And isn't it ironic that a person who was a Jew and then converted to Christianity cannot obtain Israeli citizenship? But Israel wants nations that consist primarily of Christians to send them billions of dollars to fund their genocidal campaign against Palestinians. Now, there may be an exception to that. I'm not totally briefed on Israel's immigration laws. You can find more information on the internet. You could speak to an immigration attorney if you're thinking of visiting Israel or changing your citizenship to Israel or whatever. Like, there might be exceptions, like if such a person married an Israeli Jew, that might open the door and make their path to citizenship easier. Recently, I watched a news report that said Israel poisoned the Palestinians' water supply, and 2 doctors from Great Britain were also poisoned while on a humanitarian mission to help innocent civilians in Palestine. Now, how can a Christian support that? How can I, as a Christian, support that? I can't. I just can't. The end doesn't justify the means. It doesn't. I didn't agree with Biden sending billions of dollars to Israel to fund their genocidal campaign. Now, to his credit, I will say that he did tell Israel, from what I could surmise from a report that I read online, that they needed to be more discriminate in their actions against Palestine, instead of going after civilians like they've been doing now for so long. So I didn't agree with billions of dollars being sent during the Biden administration, and I don't agree with billions of dollars being sent there under the Trump administration either. So this is a bipartisan thing I've got going on. I'm not picking on Trump. I'm not picking on the Democrats. I'm saying I don't care who's doing it. As a Christian, I can't freaking support it. I can't. We have sent over $317 billion to Israel since 1951. Yet a Jew who becomes a Christian has to denounce Christianity in order to make their path to citizenship in Israel easier. I'm not sure where they stand on whether such a person can visit Israel and just can't get citizenship. I'm not sure where they stand on marrying an Israeli Jewish citizen. Like I said, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I think I read somewhere that if someone wants to become a citizen of Israel but has been a Christian all their life, in other words, they weren't a Jew and then they converted to Christianity, the same standard doesn't apply. They can still become citizens of Israel, from what I have read. But do your own research, because I don't want to spread misinformation intentionally or unintentionally. But am I the only person seeing the inconsistency here? That they really don't dig Christians, but they'll take our freaking money all day. That's whack. That is whack. To borrow from Whitney Houston, that's whack. So, also, I think I mentioned earlier, this conflict didn't start on October 7th of 2023. It started May 14th of 1948, and it wasn't the Palestinians who started it. It was Israel and their lust after land and power, which has nothing to do with the Jewish faith. The Jewish faith is more an invisible thing. It's not a physical, tangible object like a land grab or the building of a temple. Okay? As a matter of fact, anti-Zionist Orthodox Jews are saying they do not support Israel's attacks on Palestine. You can find this all day on YouTube. I will put some video links below so that you can watch and listen to Orthodox anti-Zionist Jews talking about how their religion has been hijacked by Israel out of a greed for power and land. Anti-Zionist Orthodox Jews further state that during the Spanish Inquisition, it was Muslims mainly who gave the Jews refuge and protection from the Spanish Inquisition. Now, if you don't know what the Spanish Inquisition was, you can look it up. It's very easy to find. It's all over the internet. So, we're going to check out this video of Israeli police beating on an anti-Zionist Jew, or Jews, I'm sorry. There were several police and several anti-Zionist Jews. They were just dressed in traditional clothing. They were just walking down the street. But whatever they were wearing was enough to set these policemen off. They started beating them. One man got slapped dead in the face and pushed into another building, out of the street into a building. They didn't appear to be doing anything to cause a problem. I didn't see any protest signs. I didn't see them yelling or screaming at anyone. I didn't see them pushing anyone or doing anything physical to anyone. Yet most of us in the United States subscribe to Zionism, premillennialism's ugly cousin, which in a roundabout way means those of us who stand with Israel are in a roundabout way supporting how these anti-Zionist Jews are being treated by Israeli police. I mean, there's no other way to interpret that. I'm saying this because some of us may not realize what's really going on in Israel, and that's what this video is about. I'm not saying if you support Zionism, you're just this terrible person. I see you more as a victim of bad theology, not a bad person. You're just someone who doesn't know all the facts and the history of this Zionist BS. And I'm here to tell you all about it. Most of us have been taught Zionism in the churches and therefore have been victims of bad doctrine. But bad doctrine can be unlearned. I would recommend a book, and I'm going to put a link below. It's a commentary on the book of Revelation. It goes into great detail explaining the book of Revelation. You won't believe it. It's beautiful. It's called The Avenging of the Apostles and Prophets by Arthur Ogden. There's just not a better book that I can recommend in all my years of study. So now I'm going to get on to this video, and it is disturbing. It's not for children. My whole channel is not for children, as a matter of fact. So here we go. So this video comes to us from the Middle East Eye. It's a great channel. I highly recommend it. Subscribe. I know I did. It's very informative about what's going on, what's really going on in Israel. So now I'll press play. I hope you can agree with me that that was absolutely pathetic for a police officer, an Israeli police officer, to beat on this anti-Zionist Orthodox Jew who was obviously a bit older and wasn't doing anything to provoke what happened to him. There was more than one, but I'm just talking namely about the one that was shoved into another building from the street and slapped in the face. And when you support Zionism and premillennialism and all of that stuff that has been misinterpreted and misguided all into the churches here, you're supporting what that Israeli police officer did to that Orthodox Jew in Israel. I just can't. Now I'm going to show you a video. The speaker is Rabbi Weiss, and he is denouncing Israel's atrocities in Palestine. So I want you to see this. This is coming from TRT World, and that's Turkish Public Broadcast Service. Okay, so again, give credit where credit is due. TRT World, and this is Rabbi Weiss. He is here in America, from what I understand. Check out what he has to say about Israel.
Slaughter in Gaza has nothing to do with the conflict between religions, between Judaism and Islam. We have been living together as Jews and Muslims for literally hundreds of years, thousands of years. We've been living together with Arab people. You can see how we live together. It's only an introduction of a political movement called Zionism, and it's using the name of Judaism to declare war on the people of Palestine, to declare and vilify the people of Palestine that they're anti-Semites, anti-Jews. That's totally repugnant and false. We cannot be silent. We're Jews. Because we're Jews, we have to stand up and say, this is not true. It's not in our name. We totally object to this. We cry and hurt with the people of Gaza and Palestine. But this is not a religious state. It's not a Jewish state. They're using the name Israel. They're masquerading in the Star of David in the name Israel. This is a criminal entity, the mass slaughter in Gaza.
After hearing what Rabbi Weiss had to say about Israel hijacking the Jewish religion in order to acquire power and land and abuse the Palestinians for several decades, it kind of sounds like what the Nazis did to the Jews. It's being repeated. The Israelis are doing the same thing to the Palestinians that the Germans did to the Jews. Maybe going about it with different methods, but it's the same ideology and it's the same intent. And as a Christian, I can't go along with it. I know without a doubt, Jesus would not approve of me going along with it. So I'm not going to. I'm going to just sit here and be a Christian unicorn while everybody scratches their head wondering why I don't stand with Israel and support Zionism, which is fine with me. Now, I don't know if you grew up with this teaching or ideology or not, but if you are searching for maybe a congregation or a religious body that does not teach Zionism, I think I have sort of a short list. The choices are yours. I believe the Presbyterians do not teach Zionism. Pretty sure the United Methodists don't subscribe to Zionism and premillennialism. Fairly certain the Catholics do not subscribe to Zionism. Some Lutherans don't. Maybe all the Lutherans don't, I can't be sure, but I do know that some Lutherans don't believe in Zionism, don't support it. Some independent, non-denominational Church of Christ congregations don't support Zionism. They don't teach it. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. These are only a few, so I'm not saying these are the ones to go to and the rest are bad. That's not where I'm going at all. Okay? So I'm just trying to give you some ideas of denominations or churches or whatever that, you know, you could safely visit, maybe even become a part of without becoming a victim of this bad theology of Zionism, premillennialism, and the garbage that's being pushed on Christians. Now, where did I get these ideas, you may ask? Where did I get these ideas? It wasn't from a religious upbringing. My mother was a Christian, a Southern Baptist. For most of my childhood, my father was an atheist. He never tried to interfere with my choice on whether to be a Christian or not. I decided to become a Christian. He never got in the way of that. He never made fun of me. He never tried to make me feel dumb or stupid or anything like that. He was very respectful of my beliefs, but he just didn't have any at the time. And so because I was not raised in church, my parents wanted me to come to religion on my own if that's what I wanted to do. They wanted me to study on my own. They wanted me to think for myself. They didn't want me to get indoctrinated by other religious leaders. They wanted me to have freedom of thought and to think for myself and to figure things out for myself. So when I went to college, my major was opera and music, vocal performance, and my minor was religion. And then I took audit courses on my own as far as religion goes, because there were times when I couldn't afford to pay, but I had the interest, right? And so I have studied on my own mostly, rather than, I haven't really allowed myself to be spoon-fed all that much. I have visited so many churches and denominations, I couldn't even name them all. I have not ever visited a mosque, but I'm open to visiting a mosque. Christians are actually welcome to visit mosques as long as they follow the etiquette of the mosque, like taking off your shoes and things like that, and not being loud and disturbing, other people that are trying to pray. Just like, church, only in church you leave your shoes on typically. Also, interestingly, you may not realize this, Muslims are not the 911 people, okay? Those were like extremist Muslims that hijacked the Muslim faith along with some planes in order to do evil. That is not your everyday Muslim, by the way. Everybody's like, oh, Jews and Muslims hate each other. Well, actually, Muslim prayer rooms are open to Jews. in most places. There might be some exceptions, like maybe war zones, but as a general rule, Jews are welcome to pray in Muslim prayer rooms because they believe they're praying to the same God. So we've been lied to by the media. We've been lied to by religious people all of our lives about Muslims and Jews and Zionism. We've been lied to. And the only way to stop it is to take control of your learning. To deprogram, if you must. To relearn some things. And then you have your people that are content to be spoon-fed whatever the guy in the pulpit says on Sunday morning, Sunday nights, and Wednesday nights. And if that's you, okay, maybe your mind's like concrete, all mixed up and already set. I can't help somebody like that. I'm only putting these facts out here and putting these scriptures out here to be thought-provoking. Just to provoke thought. Okay? So you don't have to send your money to this or that to try to get a temple built or to try to strengthen Israel in their war. Matter of fact, our tax dollars to the tune of billions of dollars have already been forcibly taken from us to accomplish that. I've got a problem with that. I got no problem with national defense. But as for sticking our noses in everybody else's wars and having our tax dollars forcibly taken from us to fund genocide like what's going on in Israel against Palestine. Oh, and the government will say that, you know, people using food stamps to buy Twinkies, they're the problem. You know, homeless people. I've seen, okay, I'll tell you, I was a long-haul truck driver for 10 years. I've probably taken every exit ramp in this nation at one time or another. I have over 1 million safe miles under my belt because I was out there for 10 years. And if there's one thing I've seen, it's homeless people begging for money. They're at the truck stops. They're on exit ramps. You name it. I have seen double amputee veterans out begging for money. We can't help them, but we can send billions of dollars to Israel so they can commit genocide. Oh, guess who got that started? You probably think that I'm coming down on Trump. I'm a liberal, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me explain something to you. Politics is not really my thing. I'm more interested in doing what's right, regardless of what's going on politically. But it was actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually Harry Truman, Democratic president, okay, that started sending money to Israel for this garbage. So I'm not just putting Trump on blast. I've said something about Biden, and I've said something about Harry Truman also. And both of them are Democrats. Okay, and I just disagree with them on sending billions of dollars to Israel to fund genocide. And if you don't have a problem with it, you might want to think about a scripture. Jesus once said, "Go and learn what this means." He was borrowing from the book of Hosea. "Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice." And genocide isn't mercy. Poisoning water in Palestine that innocent children are going to drink is not merciful. Therefore, it's a violation of Scripture. And what is a violation of Scripture? What is it? S-I-N, sin. Sin, sin, sin. That's what you're living in. Okay? That's your Billy Graham for the day. All right. So, but I'm not saying if you still subscribe to Zionism that you're a bad person. I believe you can pull yourself out of it. I believe you can study your way out of this if you want to badly enough. Anyway, I think I've said all I have to say. I hope you have a good day. Thank you for listening, and be blessed.